there's certain averot that are very, very grave. They're very severe. And therefore they need tremendous tikkun. Sometimes if you make an averah, they say, okay, go to the mikveh, you're okay. Other averot, they say, fast a couple of days, Monday, Thursday, Monday, and you'll be okay.
Give tzedakah.
Right, give tzedakah, tzedakah tatzir. But the Arizal said, the Ben Ish Hai brings it down in Torah Lishma, that there's certain averot that need a very, very big tikkun. For example, there's one avon in the Torah, Mishkav Zachur. Mishkav Zachur is when a man goes with a man. But the Torah talks about it. Torah talks about all the averot. Torah talks about a person going with his mother. It talks about a person going with an animal. All this deviant behavior, the Torah discusses it. Recently, there was a rabbi from London. He came along and said that this averah is nothing, nothing more than shatnez or anything else. It's just another. Although the Torah says regarding this averah that it's punishable by karet, and if there's witnesses, it's punishable by sekila. It means the person who does this averah gets stoned to death. But to this rabbi, who has no tradition. It's what happens when you don't have a tradition, and the Torah becomes like a newspaper, and everybody freelances. You say your own ideas. You don't quote anybody. You quote your own opinions. Now, it's possible a person is able to express his own opinions, but when you're saying novel things and hadush things, which he admits that these are novel things that are going to offend people, and he was right. I have to give him credit for that when he says in the beginning of that lecture, he calls it a shi'ur. It's no shi'ur. Elu devarim she'en shi'ur. This is not a shi'ur. He gives himself too much credit to call that a shi'ur. All my life, it's okay. Sam, I don't need help with this. I've all my life been with the Hachamim. I know what a shi'ur is. I know what Torah is like that. This he refers to it as shi'ur, but it's not a shi'ur whatsoever. It's a freelancer, a guy coming along like a charlatan or some type of used car salesman that comes with a slick language and brings sources. You can bring sources for anything. The question is, how do you interpret the sources? In any event, he is right when he says in the beginning of the derash that I'm going to offend people. I'll tell you what he meant when he said he's going to offend people. He didn't mean he's going to offend the religious people. It's not what he meant. On the contrary, he intends to offend the religious people. That he doesn't ask for forgiveness for. He says clearly, there's people with hats and beards, and they make sins, and everybody has sins. But he has to point out that it's the guys with the hats and the beards that are the sinners. He has to go make sure that everybody knows that it's not anybody else that's part of the sin. It's those guys that are, so he's not asking forgiveness when he says, please forgive me, I might offend somebody. What he means is, he's talking to a liberal crowd over there. And as much as he wants to say that Mishkav Zachur is permissible, that's what he wants to say. But he can't say it because he's stuck, because the Torah says it's forbidden. The act is forbidden. So he's stuck. So he's got to apologize to the people that some people are not going to be satisfied. So therefore, he apologizes that, you forgive me that I'm not going to be able to give you the answer that you want. But he brings them, very, very close as he can to the act and the justification of it. So that he does accomplish in the in the lecture. It's a hoax. But again, we don't put anything past them, because if you don't have a tradition and you don't learn from rabbis, so then anybody can, fall into this type of, windy road that he gets lost in his thought. That's what the Mishnah said, Aseh lecha Rav. You have to have a rabbi. Now, it's true. You'll tell me, well, I learned in Yehavedah under the tutelage of Acham Ovadia Yosef. I'm very impressed, by the way. So I'd like to know, then, where in Acham Ovadia's books, where in his Dirashot, did you ever hear such ideas? Where to the speaker in that Dirash, Mishkav Zachur is considered a positive step in humanity. It's considered something that's and he said it's not such a great sin, it's just like, it's any other sin. So then why does Arizal say that if a person committed that avon, he has to fast 333 fasts? Oh, that's just a regular avon. If he did it once, 333 fasts, gematria regel. But again, if you're not being intellectually honest and you don't look at the sources with an open eye, the speaker has a prejudice. I'm not sure what his prejudice is. There's a few reasons why people talk pro this type of lifestyle. I'm not going to go into all the reasons why people speak pro these type of things. You can imagine the reason people have prejudices. I don't know exactly what the guy's prejudice is, but I do believe he believes it. He believes it because, again, he puts himself at great risk when he says, and I believe everything he says, that this is something he's been thinking about for decades.
Years.
Yeah.
It took him years.
It took him years to develop this. So this is not something. See, I speak also in front of people, and I'll be the first one to say, sometimes you misspeak. Sometimes you say something and you could have said it better, and then they call you on it. They say, "Hey, Rabbi, you said this. You could have said it better." So something you're right. But to the credit of speakers, people make mistakes. Electricians are going to make a mistake in wires. Hopefully, nobody dies. A plumber will make a mistake in his profession.
It's part of the human race.
And that's the human race. People make mistakes. I don't have a problem with a person that misspeaks from time to time, especially if you're doing that 20 hours a day. You're about to say something that's off color, off mark, off the... no problem. But he removes himself from that pardon. He doesn't ask for that pardon. He says in the beginning, I don't want to be pardoned for what I'm saying here. Then he goes, I want you to know I prepared this for 20 years. This is something that's premeditated. That's called premeditated murder. Which means he's saying, for 20 years, I'm in a court when a person says that, so you take away the alibi that he has. Oh, I didn't get up in the morning to kill anybody. I got in the car, I was going to work, and I sped by, my plan was to kill. But if a guy comes along and says that for 20 years, I've been thinking about the day that I get up in the morning and speed in my car and run somebody over, so then already that's called premeditated. You took away that alibi of saying, I misspoke or I did. So by doing that, this shows that this is something that is with intent, it's malintent. So just because you learn with Acham Ovadia means nothing. Unless you want to create a new rule, that if you learn by Acham Ovadia, or you marry into Acham Ovadia's family, so that gives you an automatic pass to hang your dirty laundry on the Gedolei Hador. I don't believe that. On the contrary, that only magnifies the avon, or only amplifies the avon, because you have such a lineage. Not him, but he's connected to a lineage. So, Adrabah, you bring bushat to the family. Rav Moshe Feinstein, alav shalom, in one of his teshuvot, when he talks about this subject, Rav Moshe Feinstein was the Gadol Hador. I don't hear him quoting him. He doesn't quote him. He's too busy quoting the Romans, giving all the details exactly have the Mishkav Zachur was done and all its sources over there. I never saw Chama Ovadia give us the history of Mishkav Zachur. I never saw any of the tzaddikim. I have a library probably bigger than any library of any rabbi in this community. I have libraries all over the place. I have books where I have nowhere to place them. I never saw any of these books over here, anybody even talk about this topic. And when I did, I find the Teshuvah of Rav Moshe Feinstein. Rav Moshe Feinstein comes along and says, in one of his Teshuvot over there, and he comes along and says like this, he writes, Velo rak shu genai. He's talking about people that are involved in this lifestyle. He's talking about people that are actually involved in the lifestyle. He says, Shelevad shu neged haTorah be'isur hamur hayoter gadol hu gam neged etzem ha'anushiyut. If I'm reading it right, shu neged haTorah be'isur hamur hayoter gadol. Rabbi Moshe Feinstein has a different opinion, obviously. He calls the Avon a Hamur Yoter Gadol. Where he comes along and says, Shatnez, the guy forgot Ya'alev Yavo in Amidah. We're going to kill a guy for that. In his opinion, some people are, really want to do such a thing, and the Torah says they're not allowed, and his reaction to that is, it's sad. It's sad because in his language, the Torah doesn't work for everyone. Torah doesn't work for everybody. And of course, he hangs that statement on Maimonides. You see what he does is, he lines up all the tzaddikim, and he takes all his dirty pants, and he hangs each one of his dirty ideas on another rabbi. And again, if you're an amateur coming to that class, and you hear somebody giving you a source sheet, and you hear somebody quoting, and you hear all sorts of Hebrew words, and maybe throw in a little Kabbalah, Tikkun Yesod, all this type of stuff. So an amateur can fall right into the trap. But if you have a little more refined ear, right away you could say, you could feel it, that this man over here is he's selling you something. He's trying to sell you something. There's no Yirat Shamayim over here. There's zero Yirat Shamayim. That's why when Hachamim heard this, all of them. I haven't heard yet a rabbi yet, and I challenge a rabbi to come stand before any group of Hachamim and say that this is our tradition, that this is the way we learned from our rabbis, and this is the way we were taught. I haven't heard yet anybody. His own rabbis came along and said, we're tired of cleaning up his dirty messes. We're tired of cleaning up his vomit. We're tired of cleaning up his... This is what the own rabbis, his rabbis, that they say he's a rebellious one and he has forsaken the tradition. So, Rabbi Moshe Feinstein then says, "Shelebat shu neged haTorah b'isur hamur." Hayoter gadol. I want to make sure that I'm reading this correctly. He says, "Milbad shu neged haTorah b'isur hamur, hayoter gadol hu gam neged etzem ha'anushiyut, שנעשה שפל ובזוי בתכלית השפלות, ולא רק שהוא גנאי הוא, גם גנאי היותר גדול לכל משפחתו." It brings a genai to the family, he says. Genai is a derision. It brings an embarrassment to the family. So, if anything, it's a liability to such a guy that he brings an embarrassment to the family of Chama Ovadia alav shalom. To talk in such a way and to glorify it in such a way. But again, he's very careful. He tells us from the beginning, I believe that the Torah was written by God. Well, Todah Rabbah, we appreciate that. As if it's his opinion. As if says this is like a debate. So he says, I'm on the side that says God wrote the Torah. There might be others that, feel a little differently, but I want to let you know that I'm from that group. But that's like up for, that could be up for argument, but I just want to let you know where I stand. And therefore he comes along and says, he says what he says. So it's a genai lemishpachto. It's a not to his family, but it's a genai to the family of Hakam Ovadia. 100%. Ishto kegufo. Anyway, the point is that every avera has a tikkun. Every avera has a tikkun. Avodah zarah has a tikkun. Gilui arayot has a tikkun. Shvikut damim has a tikkun. Even those grave averot, look at the books to see exactly how you mitakin it. Now, you could fulfill these averot in two ways. You could actually fulfill them in action, or you could actually promote them in hashkafatly or ideologically. You could talk about these averot and glorify them and show that you have an affinity towards them. He has a Book of the Month club. It's a good idea, the Book of the Month club. I always said we should do it in the synagogue. 1 week we should read Chovot HaLevavot. 1 month we should read Mesilat Yesharim. The other month maybe we should do Sha'arei Teshuvah. Maybe we should read biography about Hakam Ovadia, or about the Ben Ish Chai, or about the Tzaddikim, or maybe a good book about the Holocaust. We could talk about it in the forum. I'm not against reading. We spend our whole lives reading. They have a Book of the Month club that he leads. And the purpose of the Book of the Month club is to specifically read secular books. That's the purpose, to read secular books. Okay, secular books, fine. When we went to high school, I cannot say that we didn't read secular books. Huckleberry Finn and some other books of that ilk. But specifically, the first Book of the Month club was written by a well-known atheist. The book was called The Greatest Show on Earth, written by Hawkins, one of these guys, who's a well-known atheist. And the book is said, it's an atheistic book. And the book shows you that really his whole theory, how it's a godless world, and the whole world really just came from evolution. And that's the first book he chooses in the Book of the Month Club, a book that was written by an atheist that proposes a godless world and theories of evolution. What's the motive? So you would say the motive is to read the book and then to lambast the guy and to say, Rabotai, this book must be burnt with the hametz on the Pesach. And then you listen to, because he's not embarrassed to put this stuff online. That's what shows me again that there's a disconnect over here, which means what we think is so vile and so repulsive, he says, we got to get this out there. We got to let people hear this stuff. So nothing that I'm saying is, that I'm a PI. I don't do any private investigative work. You just got to go to YouTube and you type it in and he wants you to see it. So if he wants you to see it, so therefore he wants you to react to it, I guess, as well. And in the book review, at least the way I understood it, and I brought it to rabbis as well at the time, 2 years ago, and I told it to him his face. He praises the author, and you get a feeling that there's parts of the book that are really he's impressed by, and there are parts of the book where he can relate to, and on the contrary, he puts the people that believe in creation, they're the ones that are a little backwards or archaic in their thinking. That's the way you get it. I mean, you can look at it, hear it yourself, and if I'm wrong in my assessment. But I brought it to the Big Chachamim in Eretz Yisrael at the time, and they were, first of all, how do you pick such a book? That's a book of the Month Club, to read a book. So that's Avodah Zarah. That's Avodah Zarah. On the highest level. You're promoting Avodah Zarah in the Book of the Month Club. You're letting people read it. You're telling people to read a book of Avodah Zarah and atheism? We're so sure that every student that you tell to read the book is going to come out with the same conclusion that you came out with? That's Choteo Mahati Ta'am. Now you don't have to worry. There's only 3 people in the book club. You see it on the video. So I'm not too worried about the impact over here. But what I am worried about is when they bring him to other places where there's more than 3 people, then I'm worried about. But this is where you see a window into the guy's brain. The next book that he does later on is a book called The Catcher in the Rye. I never read that book. I think it was a Broadway play.
High school.
Good. Now, I never read it. You read it. You know the book is filled with immorality, that book. There's explicit things written in that book of Arayot. I remember in Flatbush they used to read it, and in other schools they read it. Sometimes they said you had to rip out those pages. Something. That was all argument.
A lot of people that killed people read that book prior.
A lot of people.
Like the guy that assassinated Lenin.
Correct. Besides that part, yes, it talks about assassination, and I think not assassination, suicide, twisted book, but it's Arayot. And he talks, you can listen to the YouTube. Listen to he talks about how the part of the book when he was going with a prostitute, and he couldn't go with her.
That was in the Book of the Month Club too?
That's the Book of the Month. That's the second book. After Avodah Zarah, I went to Gilui Arayot. And one of the ladies in the class says, yeah, and you remember he did something inappropriate. He says, oh yeah, I remember that. And, they're talking mamash like bums in the Bowery, bums in the street. And now this Book of the Month Club, he talks about homosexuality as if it's God's gift to humanity. Although you can't do it because the Torah says, but anything up to it is up to interpretation. Anything up to that is okay. You're right. The act is forbidden. Shafichut Damim. So that's called in your language. That's called the trifecta, where you hit all three. You hit the Gilui Arayot, Avodah Zarah, Shafichut Damim. Boom. You hit it in one shot. So the fact that everybody's getting all excited from this is an old story. This is not any revelation to anybody who knows what's going on over here. But my point is again. Yeah, and I'm sure, as clear as I am on this, there'll be liberals, whether it's there or not community, will say, why? It's another idea, it's another viewpoint, and he'll come along and say, it's a distortion. Listen, it's possible that all the rabbis didn't understand it, and he's the only one that understood what he was talking about. And probably the 150 people that were there understood exactly what he meant to say, and anybody else that heard it outside of those 150 are trying to distort it. But you can't distort a tweet that he writes that he was impressed by the Pope's acceptance of gays. That you can't distort. That he wrote on a tweet. That you can't distort. That's his own words. This is not a witch hunt. You don't want to find guys like this. On the contrary, you're sad that you have to find guys like that. You're not happy to go on a witch hunt to find this opinion over here. He'll come along and say, look at the black hatters. I spoke to, most of the guys I spoke to this week were not black hatters, by the way. They're more centrist left guys, the guys that I've been talking to this week. And all of them are just as revolted or more than I. The reason why I say they're more revolted than I, because I expected this already, because I knew this already. To them, it's a revelation. They're saying, wow, we didn't know this. And they'll debate, bringing such a... You cannot debate. It's not up for discussion. Did you choose in your Book of the Month Club a book that was written by the atheist? Forget about what you said about the book. Forget about any comments or any opinions. Did you choose that book? Would Acham Avadia sanction to choose such a book? Would any of your rabbis ever read such a book? That itself says that you have your own tradition. It's a tradition that comes from conservative and reform, and it's not the tradition of Spanish Portuguese, I'll tell you that much. Something happens again when you put on a top hat, you go crazy. It makes you crazy. You cannot deny the fact that you picked the book, The Catcher in the Rye, which has Gilui Arayot in there. So you're telling people to read a book of Gilui Arayot. Now don't tell, well, in Flatbush they make you read it. That's some literature teacher in English. I don't expect anything from her. You're a rabbi. Imagine I would come into the synagogue and give you a book And Monday night class, we're not doing Chavot and Levavot. We're going to read The Catcher in the Rye, and we're going to talk about the scene when he looks at himself in the mirror, which he talks at great length about that, and in the derash of it. What are you talking? There'd be a lynch over here. They'd say, "What do you mean? Throw the guy out." The guy went berserk. And you cannot deny the fact that he chose to talk about something that he says from the beginning, "I'm going to offend people." He didn't mean us. Trust me, he didn't mean us. He meant he's going to offend the people that wanted him to say that it's permissible, but he wasn't able to give them that leniency. He took them to the brink, but he says, "Please, you're going to forgive me, but I'm bound. I'm bound by a pasuk, and I haven't yet figured out a way how to get out of it yet." So as of now, the text is the text. But David and Jonathan, they were lovers. What type of talk is that? What type of talk is that? Where's your tradition? Where did you hear that? Who told you about this? So this is again, and he's proud that he comes from West Hollywood. That's the tradition. That's the Mesorah. The tradition of West Hollywood. I have no problem. If I am wrong, let a great rabbi of tradition, could be Acham Yaakov Hillel, Acham Yitzchak Yosef, Acham Shlomo Amar, all rabbis that I bow my head to, if they come and tell me, Acham Mansour, you're reading it all wrong, you're making a mistake, you're not giving benefit of the doubt, it's proper, it's our tradition, we've been doing this, you're just not modernized enough, your head is in the, you're fat for the head, your nose is in the wall for so many years, and you've been hanging around these old rabbis that you haven't been modernized yet. I promise you, Chozrani bi, I'll come along and I'll promote this guy more than anybody promotes him. I'll say mitzvah, I'll bring him to the synagogue. If they tell me that I'm right, and I'll ask for a mechila. But I haven't heard anybody yet say anything. On the contrary, anybody that's heard this stuff over here is livid from this. And then what do we do in our community? Because our community is so open when it comes to these. Bring them, let them write in the Kol HaKahal, a publication that they have over here. They can't wait to bring, these thinkers and these writers. Why? We've had always centrist guys in the community and guys that are to the left, but they knew that everybody has their, red line. You can't cross a line. Everybody knows, to a certain degree. Okay, listen, different flavors. Baskin Robbins has, what are they up to?
31.
31 flavors. So
I think they took one out.
Okay, so it's 30 now. Skimmer's what Elliot. The point is, I don't have a problem. Community is a big community. You're not going to say everybody's going to fit under one thinking, and that's clear. We have to realize that. You're not going to say everybody's going to believe in one ideology. So therefore, we have in the spectrum, you have guys that interpret this way, guys interpret that way, but all of them till now stayed within a certain framework. Now, of course, the guys that interpret one way feel uncomfortable when the guys go a little left, and the guys on the left feel a little uncomfortable when the guys go to the little right, but everybody was staying within a certain boundaries. Again, somebody once came into community, into Shari Sion, and went outside of the boundaries, and Acham Baruch rooted him out. He rooted him out without any, at risk of his own career, risk of his own job, and so on and so forth. Today you don't have Acham Baruch. So you don't have anybody that's, you have businessmen and you have, laymen that don't really understand the danger of this. They understand it in 10 years from now, when the damage is already there, they don't see it like the Hachamim see it. The Hachamim know it. We read the books all day long. We have precedences on this. We've seen it happen in other communities. So we know when to scream murder, to scream, foul. But again, the Baal Habayit, who just said, okay, he made a mistake, it's a speech, and then he retracted. No, you don't retract from premeditated murder. You can't retract from that. You can retract from a mistake that I can retract from a class that I give, that I prepared for 1 or 2 days, and I didn't yet perfect the outcome or whatever it is. Okay, listen, wasn't prepared well. But you cannot retract something you did for 20 to 20. And if you want to retract, the way you retract is, you must step down, go to an Eden Miklat, wait till the Kohen Gadol dies, and then we'll replace you. We'll put you somewhere else in the world. We'll relocate you. Like the church keeps on relocating all these cronies that make avonot in one town. They put them in a different town. So we relocate them to Rome. That's where he wants to be anyway with the Pope. You can't wait to shake the hand of the Pope, and you can't wait to be with the, with all these Rishaim. So go there. It's not our tradition. It's not our tradition, Abutai. It's not the tradition that we're used to hearing. And listen, in our shul we're protected. We have Rabbanim, we have tradition, we have Mesorah. But, you have a lot of youth today that are confused. So you're going to bring this guy over here. You're going to bring this guy over here now to the community in the summer. And the people come along and say, wow, well-spoken. Let me tell you a secret about well-spoken. The Gemara says, Kol mi sheyesh lo yirat shamayim devarav nishma'im. The Gemara says, what is a key in influencing people? If you want to influence somebody, meaning you want to make an impression on the person, you want the person to accept. So you say, oh, Dale Carnegie. Go buy the book, How to Influence, 9 techniques in how to influence people. But the Gemara gives one of the techniques that Carnegie doesn't talk about. He says, Yirat Shamayim. Not eloquence, not vocabulary, not wordage or verbiage. He says the main way to influence somebody is if the speaker is speaking from Yirat Shamayim, it'll go into the guy's heart. So don't tell me he's a good speaker, he has eloquence, he knows, he taught. Moshe Rabbeinu then doesn't qualify, because Moshe Rabbeinu was not an eloquent speaker. Aral Sefatayim, exactly. Aral Sefatayim. He had a speech impediment. And the Achamim say that was by design. Because they didn't want anybody to say that Moshe Rabbeinu was like, God forbid, Bar Minnah, not Moshe Rabbeinu. But you have these Sunday morning evangelists that get on Channel 9 and they preach and they're mesmerizing these guys. Sakana, you can't pass the channel without stopping for a minute. Because they suck you in. They're mesmerizing with all their talk over there. And they have all these people listening to them, sending them all sorts of money. So they didn't want to make Moshe, God forbid, an evangelist. Because then they'll say, listen, he's, he wooed them. On the contrary, when Moshe Rabbeinu got up and spoke, it was hard. It was a rough talk. You had to break your ears to listen to it. It wasn't something you sit there and say, oh, Rabbi Eli, you're going to hear us speak. Shh, you can hear now. Derash, sit back, and it's going to be, you're going to have a delight. You have to sit there and, what is he saying? It's difficult. But when the people finally accepted it, you knew that they accepted it, not because the way he said it, they accepted based on the content. So I'm not interested in when people come and tell me his eloquence and people have, on the contrary, I'm interested in you. That's the same thing. He's a genius. It's a genius. As if that's one of the prerequisites of, to be a great tzaddik, you have to be a genius. I'm not interested in geniuses. I'm interested in Yirat Shamayim. I'm interested in your tradition. Just tell me, Hakam, where did you hear this from? It's your own potatoes. You made your own pizza. No problem. I have no problem to make hadushim, by the way. But what I would have done, I would have said, this is a big hadush I'm about to say. I'm changing, and he says it. It's a hadush. He doesn't shy away. I'm changing the whole way we're looking at it. I'm calling something that the Torah says is to'evah. I'm not telling you to'evah is the way we understood it always as an abomination. It's not abomination. It just means it's variant. So he's saying a lot of hadushim in the tape. Wouldn't you feel that to bring such a hadush to a rabbi, a little older than you, a little more experienced, Hakam, I'm about to say this. What do you think? And he's connected. He can go to his uncle, or every one of his uncles. Kam David Yosef is his uncle. Kam Yitzhak Yosef is his uncle. All those big authors and tzaddikim, he has access. I don't have the access to that. He has access. Send them the papers, let them read it, and they'll say, you know what? Ba, ashrecha, big hadush. Go. But he doesn't need to do that. Only Hakam Avadia needs to do that. When Hakam Avadia writes Teshuvot sometimes, at the end he says, I will not be matir unless my colleagues will join us. And you see on some of the Teshuvot, he brings Rabbi Yashiv to sign with him. Or the Sitz of the Ezed, or Shlomo Zalman. He brings other Hakamim to... What do you mean, Hakam Avadia, your shoulders are very broad. But the great tzaddikim, when they say hadushim, they confer. If the Gemara says, when one rabbi would sit in Beit Din, he would bring 9 rabbis with him. They said, what do you bring all the rabbis? He says, because if I make a mistake, at least we'll share it. They were scared. He's not scared. Doesn't think that needs. Now, what also is concerning to me. So you did it. Okay, listen. A guy makes avirah. No problem. But after the avirah, if you killed somebody, usually after the murder you have remorse. The fact that he posted online shows that there's no remorse. It wasn't like he gave it and said, you know what did I do over here? I put my foot in my mouth here tonight. Wow. Okay, you know what? Only 150 people heard this. In Hendon, nobody even knows where that place is. It's a remote place somewhere. So therefore, you know what? Leave these 150 people. The damage is done. But he went at himself. And posted it to put it to the public, which means there's no remorse. He's proud of it. So you can't tell me after the fact, I regret it. You're changing the story now. You're changing the story. You tell me you regret it. You thought about it for 20 years. You regret it, so why did you post it?
He wanted to.
Obviously. It says, it's obvious.
He said it.
So I'm not interested in, and he sent out a tweet, people misconstrue stuff, and he quotes another one of the Lamed Vav Sadiqim in some secular book, that's probably next month's book, and he quotes how, people have been misquoting statements, and they parse, and they do. Listen, Rabotai, every couple of years, some of these people surface, but it's not our tradition. It's not our tradition. It's not our tradition. And Borei Olam protects our community. Anytime things like this happen, somehow Borei Olam just filters them away. I'm not happy that it influences another community, but Borei Olam protects us. This is, anyway, this was a digression. It's a positive digression. Everybody should know the truth. And as I said, if he wants to defend himself, let him. He has no credibility. For him to defend himself, he has zero credibility. Anybody that promotes Gilui Arayot Shefichut Damim and Avodah Zarah has lost all credibility in my book. The only way he can bring himself back to resurrection is to go to Gedolei Yisrael and to Hakamei Yisrael and to rabbis. And if he has a rabbi, I don't know anymore. I cannot be. And let the rabbi say, Hakam Mansour, you're being a little tough on the guy. He's really, listen. He's really let the Yosef family, the Hakam Obadiah's family, let them come and tell me, hey, you're picking on our nephew, you're picking on our guy, and I'll come along and say, okay, Hatati Abiti Bashati, I'm not going to pick on the guy. I'll fly to London, Boss Ido, I'll kiss the guy's hand. But until they tell me that, I have my opinion, which is not my opinion. I discussed it with Hakamim already. I discussed it with all the rabbis that I mentioned already. And so far, like he says on the tape, he says, hey, the Torah is a majority. We got to follow majority. So I happen to agree with that. I've asked the consensus, and the consensus of but the problem is you have Hakim that are, scared. I agree, but don't say anything. Don't mention my name, because maybe Mr. So-and-so will stop giving me $50 a month for my yeshiva. Okay, so that's what we're dealing with now. So because we have people that are, I'm with you, Rabbi Mansour. You go in the front, I'll hide behind you, but I'm with you. And then when you turn around, nobody's there. I have no problem. The same thing happened with Acham Baruch. When he was going after that guy over there, everybody put it on him. No problem, and he did it. So they bring him to deal in the summer, throw out the good rabbis, and bring in this over here.
They're not still going to bring them.
Oh, you'll be surprised. When it's so pashut to you and me, as obvious as it is to us, they come along and say, well, yes, it's another flavor. It's another flavor. Didn't Rabbi Mansour say Baskin Robbins has 30 flavors? But guess what? Imagine you went to Baskin Robbins and have a new flavor. It's called venom. What is this flavor? We take the poison of a rattlesnake and we mix it with ice cream over there, and it'll poison you. That's the 31st flavor. Eat at your own risk. That's the 31st flavor that you're talking about over here. It's a poison. It's not a poison of the body. It's a poison of the soul. Now I have no problem. Join a conservative or reformed place, and we won't bother you. But don't go around saying you're orthodox and you're considered Sephardi and all that. So what's Sephardi? What's Sephardi? This is Sephardi tradition. Again, none of our rabbis ever talked like this. They never discussed this topic. You're going to be the Hachan of the generation. Rabbi Moshe Feinstein, Alav Shalom, comes along and says, it's not only a to'eba. He quotes a pasuk in, I know this is a parasha class. I know that. But what should we do? What should we do? Gary says it's important. If you look at Parashat Azinu, it says, at the end of time, Beto'evot yach'isuhu. Pasuk, yakni'u bezarim. Beto'evot yach'isuhu. At the end of time, they're going to anger God. Yach'isuhu, they're going to anger God. Beto'evot. Rashi, this is not Kabbalah. You don't got to get to the Chaim Vital 333 fasts. Rashi. The Kadosh comes along and says, Beto'evot, b'ma'asim te'uvim, kemo mishkav zachur. Finish. B'ma'asim te'uvim. That's what the Torah says. Yachishu. This angers God. This behavior. And it angers God worse, the promotion of it, or the glamorization of it, or what angers God. And you come along and say it's a positive development in society. The Torah says Yachishu. So this is Megaleh Panim b'Torah shelo kahalacha. You're distorting a pasuk in the Torah. God says, I get angry from this. Yach'isuhu. And he comes along and says, it's a positive, the advent of this ideology, it has brought society forward. What society forward? Yach'isuhu, the pasuk says. Shomu shamayim al zot. I mean, am I in a twilight zone? In this shoot, you don't think you're in a twilight zone. But when you leave and you hear some people react, say, I thought it was informative. I thought it was enlightening. Then you say to yourself, you know something? You just have to go to your synagogue, pray, mind your own business. The world has got so corrupted. But I guess you can't blame anybody, because in a society where we don't know the difference between a man's bathroom and a lady's bathroom. So if that already became a discussion, that already we have to make a whole. We need lawyers to discuss that already. You need a judge. Something. We're not so sure that black is black and white is white anymore. Which means when we say the blessing in the morning, that God gives wisdom to know the difference between day and night. You say, what do you got to make? Who doesn't know the difference? Today that beracha is very pertinent, because there's people who don't know the difference. You have to say, thank you God for giving me bina lavhin ben yom uben laila, that I know the difference between day and night. Because today, night becomes day, everything becomes erbubia. Or v'choshech be'erbubia mishtamshim, like Rav Chaim Shmulevitz has a great shmooze on that. How everything is mixed today. Dark and light is mixed together. And by the way, I don't think that what I'm saying is extreme. I don't think this. I don't think this. What I'm telling you now, I didn't inherit this talk from my black hat genes. That's not coming from that gene. Although I have that gene inside of me, there's no question about it. My rabbis were from that school. This is not something I heard in Lakewood. This what I'm talking to you now is coming from Magen David Yeshiva.
It's common sense.
It's coming from Magen David Yeshiva. That's where I got this talk from. I want you to know which part of my education is talking here today. This is coming from Magen David, 50 Avenue P, and that whole education that I received. Boys and girls in the class, by the way. Boys and girls, from that education, of co-education of Magen David Yeshiva, which I don't regret a day that I don't regret a day that I was there in that yeshiva. I would go again. How do you like that? I'd go again if I got the chance. I don't regret a day. I wouldn't be what I am if I didn't have that education. And from that education, this is where I come from today. It's Peshita.